Hi, my name is Connor Riley, and on this week's Connor in Coverage, we're going to be talking Dabo, defense, and the inches we need. Georgia and Clemson are more alike than either fan base would probably care to admit. They've both shown they're capable of beating Alabama in championship settings. They ranked number 1 and number 2 in scoring defense a season ago, and figure to both hold strong defenses once again in the 2022 season, as ESPN's Adam Rittenberg ranked the two programs number 1 and number 2 in his future defensive power rankings. Both coaches also have a very clear aversion to the transfer portal. While Kirby Smart has been demonstrably less vocal than Dabo Swinney has, the Georgia coach has made his position very clear with regards to the transfer portal. Consider that Georgia has not yet grabbed a player from the portal in this offseason cycle.
The guys that want to be here, we're going to coach them. The guys that don't, and we're not going to chase after them. We can't. You know, that's their determination. We're trying to create a culture of I want to be here and grow and get better. Like you come to Georgia, you get developed. So if I'm not the guy, at least I'm developing to be the guy.
Clemson and Georgia each had to replace coordinators this offseason, with Clemson having replaced both their offensive and defensive coordinators, and both schools promoted from within. In fact, Kirby Smart has done this more often than not. Since making his initial hires before the 2016 season, only once when he's needed to hire a coordinator has he gone outside a member of the current Georgia staff. That would be when he hired Todd Monken to replace James Coley, a promotion from within, after the 2019 season. For years, Clemson has been built on the idea of stability. Minimal roster turnover unless guys are going off to the NFL, and keeping the same coaches. Kirby Smart's comments made throughout this offseason ring true to what Dabo has built at Clemson. Yet the two schools, despite the same shared principles between the two coaches, enter the 2022 season in very different trajectories. Georgia is riding high off a national championship. Clemson just had its worst season since the start of the college football playoff. It's a stark contrast from when the two teams met as top 5 programs at the beginning of the 2021 season, and they played an extremely similar game. The difference on that night in Charlotte quite literally was a defensive touchdown by Georgia's Chris Smith. It proved to be the only touchdown on the day as Georgia won 10-3. Georgia was able to right many of its wrongs committed that day in Charlotte. A big reason why was because of the quarterback change that they had made in going from an often injured JT Daniels to steady Stetson Bennett. While Bennett was far from perfect last year, more often than not, he was good enough. He threw 29 touchdown passes to just 7 interceptions. And what's more is that entering the 2022 season, he returns to work with Todd Monken once again. And while some may grumble at what Bennett is or what he may not be, I think just about every Georgia fan would take what Bennett gave last year over what Clemson's 5-star quarterback gave them as a starter in 2021. DJ Uiagalelei's first season as a starter was far from ideal, as he had only 9 touchdowns to 10 interceptions and completed 55% of his passes. Uiagalelei returns for Clemson this year and will be working with the new offensive coordinator in Brandon Streeter, as Tony Elliott is now the head coach at Virginia. But Uiagalelei and the Clemson program face many questions on the offensive side of the ball, and when you've had Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence as your quarterbacks for most of the last decade, you haven't had to answer these questions in quite some time. Questions that Smart seemingly has had to answer all the time, just given the quandary that has been the Georgia quarterback position. Various top 25 coaching lists are going to come out over the next month, as that's just the usual mark of the offseason. In all likelihood, Dabo Swinney and Kirby Smart will be number 2 and 3. And while Kirby Smart won the head-to-head a season ago, Dabo Swinney's 2 championships and the ongoing offensive questions we've seen from Kirby Smart are probably going to have Swinney ahead of Smart. The similarities between the two programs and their two differing trajectories, it seems at this point in time, show just how small the margins are in college football. Miss on a quarterback evaluation and you're playing in the Cheez-It Bowl instead of in a college football playoff game. Make the right offensive coordinator hire and you're beating Alabama and winning a national championship. Both teams figure to have very good defenses once again in 2022. Even with the replacements that Georgia and Clemson both have to make, the infrastructure is good enough to allow for continued success on that side of the ball. Offensively, though, questions linger, and fair enough on both sides. How well both schools go about answering those doubts determine whether or not each side gets back to the college football playoff.
Still think it's an era of throwing the ball. It's an era of scoring points. And we're going to have to do a better job of that, continue to do it, and We want to play defense better than everybody else. What that number looks like, I don't know. We just want to be number one in the country. We want to be good at it, but we want to score points. And to do that, you got to have skill players that can make plays, and we think we're in a good position to do that.
After leading off last season, Georgia and Clemson aren't set to see each other again until 2024. It'll be the first of a 5-game and 10-year stretch between the two schools. But if both programs are able to consistently answer some of the questions that outsiders have about them, it wouldn't come as a surprise to see the two teams in a college football playoff semifinal or championship game sooner rather than later. For DawgNation, my name is Connor Riley. This has been Connor in Coverage.